Tonight on the docket, Osama bin Laden is dead, and the president thinks he has the right to kill whomever he wants, so long as the person is perceived as a monster and the public supports it. Of course, the attacks on 9/11 were a horrific tragedy, but killing Osama bin Laden is a symbol of all we've lost in this pointless war on terror, and we can't forget that. In the 10 years since 9/11, for the hunt for bin Laden and the global war on terror has led us to 5 undeclared wars that have killed hundreds of thousands and cost over $1 trillion. But perhaps the most profound cost has been the degradation of our rights here at home. Think about it. The search for bin Laden is why the Patriot Act exists. It's why federal agents can write their own search warrants to tap your phones and read your bank statements and check your computer and medical records without you knowing about it. And the fear of terrorism is why the TSA can take naked images of travelers or even grope them. It's why people are held indefinitely at Guantanamo Bay, and it's why the government has tortured people. Does that sound like the land of the free and the home of the brave to you? Since 9/11, Americans have lost so many of their liberties in the name of finding bin Laden and fighting terrorism that he partially achieved his goal in assaulting our freedoms. With us now on the assassination of Osama bin Laden is the former head of the CIA's bin Laden unit and Freedom Watch regular Michael Scheuer. Michael, welcome to Freedom Watch. You spent a good part of your career following this man, analyzing this man, explaining this man to your colleagues and your superiors. Were you as surprised as the rest of us, Michael, last night when the president announced where he was and that he had been killed there?
I was pleasantly surprised, Judge. I was afraid we had missed so many opportunities that we would not get another chance and he would die of old age. I think it's very important that he is dead rather than captured.
Would Osama bin Laden have been a better asset for the intelligence community or for the symbol of American justice had he been taken alive?
I don't know about the justice side of it, but I think he would have been a very difficult man to debrief. He would have loved to die in our custody. And more than that, if we had to put him on trial, he would have had an ability to use a platform to speak to the Muslim world for several years. I think the best thing to do is what happened, that he's dead in a military operation.
Does the government believe that it can search the world looking for monsters to slay and without a declaration of war or even a threat from the person, go in there and in 40 minutes, using 40 of our best guys, kill him? Or should the government have made some effort to capture him?
Well, as I understand it, Judge, they did ask him if he wanted to surrender. He certainly did not. We knew that going into that operation, that he would never surrender. He wanted to die, especially in fighting the United States. So I think the boys on the ground did the right thing. They really didn't have much else to do. The point you make, though, is a very good one. We're definitely involved in a war, and the Congress hasn't spoken on that issue except to back up the president's unilateral actions, this president and Mr. Bush.
And when this president receives the accolades that he's receiving today from across the political spectrum, the Congress is even less likely to interfere with his unilateral decisions as to who to kill and where to kill them, and that might encourage him to do it again. I mean, last week he presumably authorized or knew about the killing of Gaddafi's grandchildren. I don't know what military or freedom-oriented goal that advances.
Well, the Congress is a supine and rather useless organization, whether in foreign policy or in budgetary. They have really surrendered their prerogatives to the president. It seems to me that a lot of things we argue about, Judge, whether it is killing individuals or fighting a war, the whole scheme of things changes when the Congress declares war. The president's powers are very clear.
Right.
The Congress has an ability to watch over that and to control the budget, but the way they sign off, they're just letting the president run wild, really.
When the Congress looks the other way, as it did with Libya and as it has with Pakistan and with Yemen, for example, doesn't the president's justification, he's a monster, he killed people, I had to stop him before he kills again, I had to cut off the head of this organization, couldn't that justification be used for the president to dispatch 40 of our best SEALs to kill almost any monster on the planet, whether it's Castro or Kim Jong-il or Hugo Chavez or President Assad of Syria?
Theoretically, I think, Judge, absolutely, but they're never going to do it against anybody that can hit back. They only pick on the weak, really, aside from Osama bin Laden. Gaddafi was no threat to anyone, as you know. and they went after him without any kind of permission from the Congress. But it's a path that Americans ought to decide on, whether or not individuals can be singled out for killing. And I think, again, under the penumbra of a declaration of war, many more things become acceptable.
Right. Did you think it was bizarre that they announced that his body was buried at sea? As I understand it, he doesn't belong to any kind, or didn't belong to any kind of a Muslim sect that would have created any kind of monument or shrine. He was likely to have been buried in some unmarked grave in the earth had his body been given back to his family or his followers.
Well, as I understand it, Judge, the Saudis were offered the body and they didn't take it. But you're right. Bin Laden was a Salafi or Wahhabi. Salafi, I think, is a better description, and they are really opposed to shrines and places to go on pilgrimage to honor human beings as a sort of sacrilege. They tear down shrines. So some misinformation was apparently present in the councils of the president. They could have buried him with no trouble at all.
Do you believe he's dead, or do you want some more evidence, a photograph, a testimony of an eyewitness, something other than the words of a president whose words we have doubted before?
Well, Judge, I think what I go with is the men and women on the ground. If they didn't get him, they would admit it. The success story here is not the president who did the right thing at last, but the true story is the young men and women who served the United States in the military and the intelligence services. They risked their lives, they did their job, and if he's not dead, they'll never be able to keep that a secret.
All right, but the intelligence services of which you were once a part want as much closure to this as the American public does. So with the body gone or sleeping with the fishes, won't there always be that lingering doubt amongst Americans? Well, where is the body? How do we know he's dead? Why isn't there a picture of it? Why didn't we see it before they shipped it off to sea?
I think much more than just a likelihood, Judge. I think we're already in it. The conspiracy people are going to spin this up to a very high degree. And even if they release the pictures they claim they have with Photoshop and other programs, you can doctor any photograph to make it look however you want. So I think it perhaps might have been wiser to keep the body, or at least show the body before they buried it.
We just have about 30 seconds left, Michael. What does this mean in the grand scheme of things for al-Qaeda? Was he still in charge? Are they so hydra-headed that it doesn't matter that he's gone? Is number 2 ready to take over for them? Do they even need somebody to take over for him?
I think Zawahiri will take over in the short term, Judge, but I'm sure they've groomed someone else. Zawahiri is too abrasive an official to get along for long. He's not liked by the Yemenis and the Saudis. I suspect the next leader of al-Qaeda will be someone we haven't really seen before. 2 of the candidates are a Libyan named Abu Yahya and a gentleman who commands the al-Qaeda on the Arab Peninsula down in Yemen. I think bin Laden was in charge. I think there'll be a successor, and the whole organization will continue.
Got it. Michael Scheuer, it's a pleasure. I know you've had a busy day. Thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you, sir.
And while the president did not have